One of my favorite things for years growing up, a tradition that my family and I had, and I know many people do, is watching Christmas movies at Christmas time. We've gone through many, many different films, and I've carried on the tradition even by myself, although I live alone. I'll watch them with friends and stuff too, and it's around Christmas time and all that as well. But in any case, I love Christmas movies. There was a movie that a friend of mine recommended. He said he really liked it, and normally I tend to like his opinion on different media and stuff. I gave it a shot, and I didn't like it. It is called Love Hard. Now, this movie is not about Love Hard, but I do want to just quickly explain kind of my thoughts on Love Hard a little bit here. Um, Basically, this movie is about a guy who a guy who catfishes a girl, and spoilers, I guess, for Love Hard as well as the movie we're going to go through in a minute here. But it's essentially about a guy who catfishes a girl into wanting to be with her and everything. She flies all the way to his state, his address, which there's never a mention of how the address was gathered or anything. She just shows up one day, like around Christmas time, and starts trying to develop a relationship with this guy. And she finds that he is not anything like he said he was. I mean, he is like on an internal level, but physically he doesn't look anything like himself in the online pictures he used. So this guy here, this is the guy that catfished her, and this guy here is the one who he used the pictures of. So the whole time he's trying to like help her get with this guy and all these different things because she likes him like kind of as a person, if you will, but she likes him as well, sort of. I mean, the whole lying thing didn't help, but but she likes him the way he looks and everything. So it's kind of like, well, let's not have this just be a bust. You can still, oh, yeah. So anyway, he tries to hook her up with her. The reason it's called Love Hard is because her favorite movie is Die Hard, which I agree. Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I'm one of those people though, where like if it takes place at Christmas time, I consider it a Christmas movie. I can't remember. I want to say, oh, Nina Dobrev. That's the name of the main character. She played the main character in, I want to say, the Vampire Diaries, I think it's called, as well. And yeah, anyway, so the whole bit, like, it's a romantic comedy, so again, spoilers, but it ends with her ultimately being like, oh, I actually like you for who you are, those different things. But look, I have several issues with this movie. I just want to touch on this real quick. Several issues with it. For one, she is extremely cringe. She is like everything. She is like the stereotypical white woman of like the 2010s Tumblr you know kind of person. They actually have a whole bit about, like, she has a whole, not even a character arc, but just like a thing about her where she really dislikes the song Baby It's Cold Outside, which I actually did a video on. If you have an hour and a half and you want to check out another Christmas themed video I did on how Baby It's Cold Outside is actually a progressive song. But anyway, so she was really cringy. So much of the movie was cringe in general. It was the most G-rated um mature. It was rated MA, but it was the most G-rated MA movie I've ever seen. I didn't like it. Um, I did not like this movie at all. And I didn't like the message because the whole thing is she's like, oh well, I actually like you for you, and it's on what's the inside that counts. But the reality is, if he didn't use his pictures in the first place, she would have never even given him a second look. So it's like it also perpetuates that idea, which is very untrue, and it is in a lot of like rom-coms. And I love rom-coms, but I don't like how they perpetuate this idea that all you have to do is like be persistent and be yourself, as it were, and you'll just get the girl and stuff. Not a good message to send to men. Not at all. So, really don't like that. I love romantic comedies in concept and everything, but this movie, hated it. Did not like this movie whatsoever. But the reason I'm bringing all this up, um, this movie was featuring, Love Hard, which is a combination of of Die Hard and his favorite movie, um, Love Actually. So I decided after checking this out, all right, I've heard of Love Actually before. I've never actually seen it, but I'm going to decide I'm going to go ahead and give it a chance. With all that in mind, we are about to get into Love Actually and why it is a terrible representation of relationships in general and how it goes on to romanticize infidelity and many other issues that I have with that as well. With all that said, hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about Love Actually. Now, this is a very star-studded cast, as you can see here, featuring all of these famous actors. A lot of people who, like, I recognize their faces, but I'm like, what do I know them from? Who are they? Of course, I knew Alan Rickman, I knew Keira Knightley, I knew Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, who's only in one scene, but even still. I didn't know any of these other people. I recognized him, I recognized Hugh Grant, I think I recognized Colin Firth, and that was it, so, yeah. But no, this movie, yeah, we're going to get into it here, and we're actually going to do so with the help of Toxic Takeaways, How Not to Love, actually, by The Take. But by the way, this scene right here we're about to get into, this is an iconic scene that even people who aren't familiar with this movie, like myself, know of, where the whole thing is like the guy's holding up the cards and he's doing the whole like speaking to her through the cards and all that. We'll get to all this in a minute here, but yeah, it's not great.
I love that word relationship. Covers all manner of sins, doesn't it?
Love Actually has a reputation as a feel-good classic, a holiday season staple that's as hilarious as it is heartwarming.
Now here's one for the lovers.
The 2003 film boasts a star-studded international cast, acting in a loosely connected collection of vignettes about how love is all around us in its many different and wondrous forms.
Seems to me that love is everywhere.
But if we look closer, we can see that many of its ideas about love are, well, kind of messed up, even by romantic comedy standards.
I'm on Shag Highway, heading west.
From infidelity to objectification to borderline stalking, Love Actually's version of love, actually, it's pretty unhealthy and not exactly something anyone should emulate. Here are some of the film's most toxic takeaways and what we can and shouldn't learn from them.
Yes, thank you. We're very happy.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get notified about all our new videos. Toxic takeaway number 1. Limerence is the same as love.
She's the coolest girl in school, and everyone worships her because she's heaven.
Romantic comedies are often in love with the idea of the one, the perfect predestined soulmate who will make our lives complete. But most romantic comedies aren't about love, they're about limerence, a state of infatuation or obsession with somebody that you'd like to have a relationship with.
I'm out for a drink and then after about 20 minutes.
So this is very true, and this is a very good point about the difference of love and limerence. I do agree with this so far. The thing with this is that I would really like to see a romantic movie, TV show, something where the characters are already together. Now, we do get that through things like my favorite show, How I Met Your Mother, where we do have, of course, yes, we have Ted on his whole journey and everything, but we also have Marshall and Lily, who are a married couple where they start engaged in the show, and throughout the entire relationship, they're married. They don't break up, they don't split up, neither one cheats on the other or anything like that. They're actually a really good, healthy example of a relationship. But we're not talking about healthy examples right now. We're talking about unhealthy examples. Yes, limerence is not a good thing to kind of obsess over. Limerence and the idea of falling in love, being in love originally with your partner, having those butterflies, all that good stuff. That's fine. That's all well and good. That's great. But it is not what actually carries the relationship and things of that nature. But my bigger issue with this, as we're going to get into here, I don't remember if the take gets into this or not. I don't think they do, which is part of why I wanted to go through this myself. But one of my bigger issues is the infidelity, but we're going to get to that in a minute here.
Casually drop into the conversation the fact that you'd like to marry a man with lots of sex and babies.
You know that?
Yes.
Limerence can develop into genuine love, but it's defined largely by those affections being unrequited, which often leads to unhealthy fixations that are only intensified by their being unreciprocated.
She's not my girl. And she's going back to America. That's the end of my life as I know it.
Love Actually.
I do want to say real quick here, I don't know what this movie is, but I like that they have a movie where they're showing a woman obsessing over the guy as well. Because, like, yeah, obviously it does happen where like the guy will be obsessed with the woman and stuff like that, even if they haven't dated or whatever. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But it does also happen where a girl will be obsessed with a guy, something of that nature. I've also been in those situations where I've had girls that I just wanted to be friends with who clearly wanted more, and I'm not getting into all this right now, but yeah, I've been there. I think it's good. I think it's cool that they they're not painting this picture of like it's only men that are problematic in this way. That's good.
Reciprocated.
She's not my girl. And she's going back to America. That's the end of my life as I know it.
Love Actually offers us several examples of limerence, and they all stem from male characters who idealize their dream girl to the point of her being a total fantasy, and occasionally regardless of her own wishes.
You've stayed rather close, haven't you?
As Holly Williams wrote for The Independent, the film treats women like pawns in a male fantasy. One of the most famous and obvious examples is Mark's pursuit of Juliet, the wife of his best
Yes. Okay. Let's get into this.
friend Peter. Mark loves Juliet from afar, intentionally keeping her at a distance to the point where she's convinced Mark doesn't even like her.
You never talk to me. You don't like me.
Juliet remains an object of idealized limerence to Mark, who reveals his fixation through the creepily obsessive footage he films at her wedding.
They're all of me.
A video that literally cuts out everything but his own narrow view of her.
Don't show it around too much. It needs a bit of editing.
Meanwhile, Mark's sole conversations with Juliet are cold and distant until at last he shows up at her house uninvited to confess his love.
Hi.
Again, without ever actually talking to her.
Okay. This isn't even like the huge issue here. This whole scene.
Cold and
So
distant
remember-
until at last he shows up at her house uninvited to confess his love.
Hi.
As they just said, she's already married. This scene starts with her. She's on the couch watching TV or something with her husband. I think they're watching TV. And there's a ring at the doorbell. She runs to go get it. This guy's there, and he holds up the cards. The reason he holds up that card that's like, say it's carolers, is because the man that she is married to is his best friend. So he is trying to move in on his best friend's marriage with a girl who he's obsessing over, who he hasn't even properly spoken to and has a real anything with. It's just, this is messed up on so many ends. And the fact that this scene has been used as a romantic thing, like, oh, it's so sweet, you know. No, this is extremely, like, I don't know if problematic is even the right word. This is extremely just unhealthy. Yeah.
Actually talking to her. Even the actor who played Mark, Andrew Lincoln, has said he questioned this behavior with Love Actually director Richard Curtis, telling Vanity Fair, I kept saying to Richard, are you sure I'm not going to come off as a creepy stalker?
It's a self-preservation thing, you see.
And he's far from the only one to suggest it. In a study on media portrayals of persistent pursuit, psychologist Dr. Julia Littman found that romantic movies where these kinds of behaviors are portrayed as part of a regular courtship could lead to an increase in stalking supportive beliefs.
I watched him play with the sun at the beach. Did you talk to him? Couldn't do it.
And while Juliet and Mark don't end up together, we still see Mark being rewarded for his persistence. Mark's inability to move past his limerence even after Juliet is happily married is troubling.
Yeah. So so again, here she is in the beginning of the movie, kissing her husband, who is this guy's best friend.
Don't end up together, we still see.
And she comes to the guy who is trying to like homework her marriage, and she's like, you know, I'm not gonna date you or anything, but she still runs over to him and gives him a kiss. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is just awful. She's like, you know, no, she's not like hooking up with the dude, but what this is right here, this is the beginning of an affair. That's what we're seeing in this romantic comedy here. We are seeing the beginning of an affair, and this shit is being romanticized. It's horrific. I really hated it. You know, if we're gonna talk about like problematic elements of romantic rom-coms and stuff, yeah, 100% the way that a lot of like relationships are portrayed, where like the goofy guy just has to be persistent and he can just get the girl. Well, that's not the way it works. You got to be attractive. You got to like figure your shit out, all that stuff, right? And all these different things. Obviously, that's just problematic, but so is this kind of stuff. You should not be like rewarding and showing this kind of thing in a positive light. This is horrific.
Being rewarded for his persistence. Mark's inability to move past his limerence, even after Juliet is happily married, is troubling in itself, but it's even more disturbing how Love Actually normalizes his obsessive behavior, even turning it into an iconic romantic gesture. We see an even more...
Yeah, again, the fact that it's like this iconic thing is absolutely insane, because it's like, this is the beginning of an affair, is what this is. This is like secrets from her husband and his best friend. This could lead to resentment. This could lead to just a breaking of the friendship and a breaking of their marriage and like everything. It's awful. It's horrendous.
Limerence, not love, in the story of Colin Firth's Jamie, who becomes infatuated with his Portuguese housekeeper, Aurelia.
Je suis très heureux de vous avoir ici.
Unfortunately, she cannot speak French, just like you.
Since they don't speak the same language, Aurelia is little more than a blank canvas for Jamie to project his fantasies onto. He's unable to understand Aurelia or get to know her in any meaningful way beyond a superficial attraction. The film does portray their growing feelings for each other as mutual.
It's my favorite time of day. Driving you.
Yeah, so I didn't even notice this at first, but this is actually a really sweet thing. It can be done. Well, no, it is really sweet, I think. Where basically, yeah, they don't speak each other's language, and yet when he says my favorite time of day, you know, driving you, and she says my least favorite time of day is you leaving. You know, it's this really sweet moment where they don't even know what each other is saying, but they are effectively saying the same thing. It is a really sweet moment, and I understand why they would do that kind of thing. But, you know, there is a moment where he does actually learn her language, and they are able to speak the language and everything. But I mean, at first, yeah, I mean, there's not really anything to go off of. They just kind of like fall in love with the idea of each other without really knowing each other. Which, to be clear, you can fall in love with the idea of somebody without really knowing them in general. I've definitely done it, even with people that I've dated, and it's rough. You get to see the real them. Most people kind of like, in my case, it was that my girlfriend had told me basically that like she was trying to be something that I wanted, like for me, which I mean it worked. I fell in love with her, but I mean don't do that. Like be your genuine self when you're dating someone and getting to know them. Yeah,
Yet it's an unlikely, if not impossible, romance based solely in longing looks. They fall in love with versions of each other that they've largely invented. Sam's crush on his classmate
I agree with this.
Joanna can at least be excused by his age.
By the way, this right here, the relationship between the father and son, this is the healthiest relationship out of everybody. Like 100%. Their relationship is amazing.
Many psychologists have
Oh yeah, I know Liam Neeson, and apparently this blonde kid is Luke in the Maze Runner. Whoever that is, I only saw the first Maze Runner. I don't remember Luke, but anyway.
the connection between limerence and the absence of love from our primary caregivers in childhood. And in Sam's case, this would be understandable, seeing as he's just lost his mom, who in a blatantly Freudian twist is also named Joanna.
Her name's Joanna.
Yeah, that is weird. I don't know if I'd ever want to date or be interested in anybody that had the same first name as my mom, but
Yeah, I know. Same as mom.
Sam idealizes Joanna to the point where he creates a fantasy version of himself just to get her attention.
Girls love.
I don't agree with this one. I will say I don't think that this is a bad example of like love. I think this is a cute thing of like a kid. He wants to impress a girl, so he's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to learn to play an instrument. So he's inspired to pick up this skill in order to impress this girl, and I guess it kind of works. I mean, they do have this whole thing where he like chases her down in the airport and all this stuff. And I don't know if this movie is where that trope comes from. Very common trope in romantic comedies, though. But yeah, he chases her down in the airport and all these different things. And right when she's about to leave, he finally is able to. I think he kisses her on the cheek. She kisses him on the cheek. He just tells her that he really likes her. I saw this movie a few weeks ago, so I don't remember like all the details, but yeah.
Love musicians, don't they? And I thought maybe if I was in the band, it'd play absolutely superbly. There's a chance that she might actually fall in love with me.
And Sam knows little about Joanna, except that she's a singer, and he admits that she barely knows him, yet he still claims she's the one.
There isn't just one person for each of us.
There was for you. There is for me. She's the one.
In Love Actually, it's never too early to develop unhealthy ideas about romance. Of course, the film doesn't just put women on a pedestal, it also turns them into lust objects. This is most evident in its story about Colin, whose failure to woo women does not prompt some intense self-examination of his many faults.
I've just worked out why I can never find true love. What's that? English girls. They're stuck up, you see. And I am primarily attracted to girls who are, cooler, game for a laugh.
Rather, it inspires
Okay, so here's the thing, right? This guy is 100% Colin. He's an incel. He's 100% the kind of guy who's like, oh, it's just a problem with these women. If I was somewhere else, I'd have women all over me, kind of thing, right? Like that's 100% what he's doing. And on that note, yeah, it's stupid and cringe and all that. But I would say his and the kid's situation are, I would say, the least problematic, because his whole situation, we'll get through it in a minute here.
Colin to head to Wisconsin to find girls who might be attracted to his accent.
Yeah, his whole thing is right. Like American women will love my British accent, which, especially at this time, was very true. Even now, like a lot of women do absolutely love British accents, but American women, I mean.
10 girls more beautiful and more likely to have sex with me than the whole of the United Kingdom.
Incredibly, Love Actually rewards his
So
fantasy as well, almost immediately.
So here's the thing, right? I thought that the way this story was going to go was essentially that he was going to find out these girls aren't actually into him. He's going to find out he doesn't have it any better here or anything like that. But instead, the movie throws a curveball, and this is where we go with it.
Immediately, Colin meets several women who appear to be down for exactly that.
Wait until Caroline meets here. She's crazy about English guys.
It's a storyline that borders on pornography, and one that says a lot about how Love Actually views women itself.
Hello, you must.
So, I can understand why people would have an issue with that. I think it's really funny and kind of cute how he's like, oh, and he shows up and he actually like immediately gets to hook up with like 4 incredibly hot girls who are insanely into him. I think that's actually, just it's kind of just a funny little playoff, and I think it kind of is meant to be that curveball for our expectations, where it's like, if you are someone who, or sorry, not, I mean, because you are expecting it to be where he shows up and they're not actually into him kind of thing, right? But instead, no, they're all over him. And I think it's kind of funny, especially because the way the whole thing is going is all the girls are like, they have this whole moment. There's a clip of that whole thing on YouTube, which I'm not going to show for copyright reasons, but there's a clip of that whole scene, which I actually saw before I saw this movie. So after a few minutes, I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen here. I've seen this clip. And it almost sounds like it kind of sounds like either the beginning to a porno, or it sounds like he's about to get robbed, because all the girls are like, oh yeah, we only have one bed that we share, and we can't even afford pajamas, so we just sleep naked, and all these different things. And then eventually they're like, and wait till you meet our fourth friend. She's the hot one. When like they're all gorgeous, it's like, Jesus Christ. So it's like, I remember I was watching with my friend, and I was like, there's a fourth. I was like, there's another one. Like, I was like, I find it, I thought it was really funny. And I think the whole point of that, I would say this is one of those elements, because in a lot of ways, this movie is not really much of a romantic comedy. It's more of a drama in a lot of ways. This is one of those elements that I would say actually is comedic. And apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently the actor, the male actor for that scene, loved his scene so much, and especially the scene that they just showed very briefly there, where, let's get back to it. This scene right here. Apparently they shot this scene so many times that, oh shit, there we go. Apparently they shot this scene so many times that he was like, you don't even have to pay me for this. He was like, I don't even need to be paid for today for this scene, whatever it was. Like, this is an incredible experience. And yeah, I mean, like, is it goofy? Is it weird? Is it like, is it fantastical? Absolutely. That kind of shit is not going to happen in real life. However, I think that, especially in relation to everybody else's things, I think his whole arc throughout the movie was the least problematic. I mean, yeah, he wants to hook up with hot girls. Nothing wrong with that, Nothing wrong with anybody wanting to hook up with or have relationships or whatever with people they find attractive, That's all well and good. I can understand the critique of saying that it objectifies these women. I would disagree with that to an extent, but I can understand where that's coming from, because like they are literally just there to be, hot girls for him to, well, in the context of the movie, he hooks up with them. We don't, but but I think, I don't know. I think it's all, it's played for laughs and everything, and yeah, I don't know.
A lot about how Love Actually views women itself.
Hello, you must be Tony. I heard you were gorgeous.
Toxic takeaway number 2.
Yeah, you can.
Hello, Tony.
So
I heard you were gorgeous.
So the whole point of that scene was that basically the guy comes back to his friend, and he's like, yeah, I brought a girl. And by the way, he does only have one girl with him that he's actually dating, so it looks like he might have actually found someone that he wants to pursue a relationship with. And hey, even if he doesn't, again, nothing wrong with people, hooking up with people, having whatever relationships they want. As long as everyone's consenting adults, it's all good. But with that in mind, he brings back his girl, as it were, and then brings back another girl, and that girl kisses her friend, his friend, immediately. Again, it's this very like fantastical, like it's not going to happen in real life. It's just this kind of funny, like oh, here I had an incredible luck in America, and here I brought someone for you too. Again, I can understand how you would say, oh, that's objectification, but like, I don't know, like, yeah, people like having sex and relationships with people they find attractive, and even if it's just casual and it doesn't mean anything, nothing wrong with that. But anyway.
Toxic takeaway number 2. Falling for your boss is romantic.
Yes, okay. This is one of the ones I was talking about. Let's go.
Dance with the boss.
Love Actually suggests that not only will we eventually meet the one, there's a pretty good chance it'll be at the office.
By the way, real quick here.
Romantic.
Dance with the boss.
Love Actually suggests that not only will we
Come on.
eventually meet the one.
Okay. This couple right here, actually one of the best couples in the movie. And they are a couple that meets on what I can only imagine is a softcore porn set, just because of like how everything is set up and everything. It doesn't look like it's hardcore at all, but in any case. Or maybe they're like doubles for a movie or something. I don't know what the case is. But their whole thing is they, throughout the entire movie, are, they're working together. And they're conversing just about kind of life. They're getting to know each other. They're conversing about all kind of different things. And by the time they decide to actually go on a date, they've already seen each other naked. They're doing it for a living, you know. So they go on this date together, and I believe at the end they get engaged, and like they actually have a really healthy relationship, and it's actually really sweet. But yeah, just wanted to touch on them real quick.
There's a pretty good chance it'll be at the office. The film gives us several workplace romances, many of them between employer and employee, and quite a few of them involving older men lusting after a younger woman.
Okay, so to be clear on this real quick, I myself have never had an office romance. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, especially as long as it's another coworker. Definitely when it gets to be a boss and employee, that's extremely problematic for obvious reasons. However, I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with coworkers dating or anything like that. But yeah, we'll get to that here.
Keeps his hands off you. 20 years ago, you'd have been just his type. No, seriously.
They're love stories that, as any HR department will tell you, are professionally inappropriate. And in a Me Too age especially, they feel even more like workplace sexual harassment.
What is this? Love Actually's workplace harassment feels especially egregious at the end of 2017. Why the Love Actually plot with David, Natalie, and the president is especially cringy today. Yeah, I feel that, yeah.
The romance between Jamie and Aurelia isn't just between a man and his fantasy, it's one between a boss and employee, and again, one
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was, yeah.
considerably younger.
She's 10 years too young to remember there was a footballer called Eusebio.
Beyond their age difference, Aurelia is in a uniquely vulnerable position. Not only can she not communicate with Jamie, she's literally there to serve him, leaving him with complete control over her.
You think he's trouble I'm not. Dat is maar starten.
Sure.
The married Harry likewise lusts after his own employee, Mia.
Okay, this one is not fair. We'll see how they get into it later. But to be clear, the way this one goes is not just him lusting after her. She is throughout the entire film flirting with him and trying to get him to cheat on his wife, like the entire film. And I don't believe he does anything like he actually does anything physical with her. They never go on a date or anything, but he does end up buying her a very expensive bracelet that the wife thought was for her, not for her. And yeah, so I just want to touch on that real quick. That like, she's definitely the instigator here. Like, I mean, yeah, here's the thing though, too, right? She's the instigator, but he goes along with it. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't shut it down. I mean, look, we understand, especially nowadays, that it's terrible for, you know, a boss to try to, you know, flirt with their employee or something like that. I think it's terrible for the employee to flirt with the boss too. I mean, you know, if he could lose his job, now it might work differently in England, I don't know, but if he could lose his job for flirting with her, rightfully so, she should be able to lose hers for flirting with him. In my opinion, he should have basically just told her, listen, I have a wife, I respect my wife and my marriage, you need to calm down, knock this off, or I'm going to fire you. Or at least like move you somewhere else where you're not like directly tempting me. Because I want to be clear, I don't mean this in a weird way, in a gross way of like, oh, women are like inherently tempters. No. I mean, this woman explicitly tempts him constantly. Like there's a point where they're talking about going to a party. It's like a work party that everybody's going to. His wife's there too. And it's the party where this scene happens. And when she's telling him about it, she's like sitting in her chair, leaning back, and she's like, "Oh, there's plenty of dark corners for us to do whatever we want." And she's like spreading her legs and stuff, not to the point where like you can see anything, but you know, she's like making it very obvious that she wants to. Now, you could argue as well that she's a gold digger. She very well could be. She could just be after his money. She could be after a lawsuit. I don't know. What I do know is she is very much in the wrong here, and she's the instigator. But at the same time, he should not be entertaining this, and he does. So again, everybody in this film is terrible. Well, everybody except for the kid, his dad. And I would say, although misguided, I think that the guy who's trying to get laid and his friend are pretty okay too. Oh, and the wife of this guy, like, you know, the victims of these terrible people, they're okay too.
It's for you. It's all for you.
Mia is new to the office, and Harry is her direct supervisor, meaning their affair could have dramatic consequences for both of them.
How you doing, man? Are you selling a fine, learning to avoid?
Yet the film suggests that this is largely a problem for Harry. It sets up.
It is largely a problem for Harry because she's the one. She's not a femme fatale. She's a homewrecker.
Yeah, as a femme fatale.
Full of dark corners, full. In dark deeds.
Right here, yes.
Sexy outfits and flirtations pose a threatening temptation.
I'd just be hanging around the mistletoe, hoping to be kissed.
Yeah, well, look, yes. Like that, she's constantly saying, like, yes. She's constantly making advances on him. She's like, yes. There is no. I don't know where the take's going to go with this, but there is no there's no way you can say that. Like, again, he's in the wrong for entertaining this, and for not just shutting it down. Like, he should just shut it down. But yes, she is. She's a seductive villain, yes.
She's made out to be a seductive villain who leads the decent man astray.
When it comes to me, you can have everything.
This imbalance is perhaps most evident in the story of the Prime Minister, David, who actually fires his staff member, Natalie, solely because he's attracted to her, and after deciding that his own lust is too much of a distraction.
I'm sure she's a lovely girl, but I wonder if you could, redistribute her.
David is
That's actually, this is the reason why he ends up firing her. Or, yes.
contrasted against the more obviously lecherous American president.
Goodness, it's a pretty little stuff.
The whole point is they do try to develop a relationship together, and there's this moment where he walks in on her with the president in that little scene you just saw. The thing about this is, let's get back to that.
Redistribute her.
David is
This right here.
contrasted.
Now, they try to say that this right here,
She's a lovely girl, but I wonder if you could,
David is
they try to say later in this movie that, oh, there was, I don't know, some fire or something, and he tried to, like, move her out of the way or something, like he was doing this to protect her in some way. What the hell is this? How do you also, if that's true, why didn't you say so in the first place? It's this whole thing. And it turns into this thing where the prime minister guy, he does this whole thing against the president where he's basically like, we aren't really your best friend, Mr. President. Like, we have issues and we're going to talk about them, basically. And I don't know, it turns into this whole, like, you know, English pride thing or whatever. I don't know.
contrasted against the more obviously lecherous American president.
Goodness, it's a pretty little stuff of pitch right there. Did you see those pipes?
So we're meant to see David as charming, and his implicit defense of Natalie as chivalrous.
a relationship based on the president taking exactly what he wants and casually ignoring all those things that really matter to, Britain.
Yet he doesn't actually address the president's harassment directly, and in fact, he ends up punishing her. Natalie even feels compelled to apologize.
I'm so sorry about that day. I mean, I came into the room and he slipped towards me and there was a fire and he's the president of the United States and nothing happened, I promise.
There is obvious romantic tension between the two.
I'm actually yours, with love. You're Natalie.
Still,
Yeah, it is very odd. Also, she's constantly fat shamed throughout this movie, which is odd because here, like, does she look fat at all? Anyway, I don't think she had anything to apologize for in the film. I do think, though, that, I mean, obviously the president wasn't going to explain himself, so yeah, she should have explained, like, it's not what it looks like, and kind of explain what actually did happen, you know, but you know, we got to have that needless, you know, drama, and people, God forbid, people should communicate. That's one of the biggest problems, by the way, in any, like, romantic comedy or anything like that, is lack of communication, which is imperative to all relationships. Anyway, moving forward.
there's no question that the power dynamic between Natalie and David is irrevocably skewed, and he's willing to abuse it whenever it suits him.
That is so inconvenient.
Toxic takeaway number 3, repress your true feelings.
I would say I don't really think that he's abusing the power dynamic. So here's the thing. I will say I don't think that any of these people, to the film's credit, I don't think any of the people are abusing the power dynamic that they have over their employee or anything like that. I do think, however, that it's wrong for them to do in the first place, you know? Yeah, but I will say, to their credit, none of the characters are actually abusing their power.
Feelings. The characters in Love Actually are connected through bloodlines and friendships, jobs, and pure circumstance.
Does Natalie live here?
No, she lives next door.
But the thing that most unites them is their complete inability to communicate. Again, Jamie and Aurelia have a clear language
Agreed.
barrier, but at least Jamie tries learning Portuguese. Of course, this doesn't make his reasoning for loving her any clearer or more articulate.
Also, by the way, this moment here, let's see if they go through it.
As coisas são muito claras para mim. Não preciso de prova.
Still, however misguided, at least Jamie is open with Aurelia. There's an even more insurmountable lack of communication between the
Okay, no, we got to talk about this scene right here.
Não preciso de prova.
Still, however
Okay, the problem with this scene... Wait, can we...
At least Jamie is open with Aurelia. There's an even
Okay, I guess we're not gonna... The problem with this scene, you can see that she's on, like, this kind of, like, you know, bar stool here. And you can see all these people around her, some of which are family, some of which are, like, just people in the community, so on and so forth. The problem with this scene is you do not want to put somebody on the spot like that for something like asking, will you marry me? That's why, like, I really hate the idea of, like, public proposals, because you're putting so much pressure on the person to say yes that they might not even actually mean it and just tell you yes because they feel like they have to. I remember I talked with my dad about this, where he was thinking about taking his girlfriend at the time over to the other side of the state with him to visit his family and stuff. And he was going to drive her. He was, like, all these different things, and he wanted to propose to her. And I told him, I said, don't do something like that when you're in a situation that she basically, like, she can't really say no. You know, she can't, she has no real option. If she, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that in a situation where, because if you're her ride there and back, all these different things, she's going to want to keep you happy, right? So if you're putting somebody in a situation like that, they're going to, you know, say what they can to keep you happy because you're their ride back. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So yeah. And don't put like that public pressure on and stuff. He ended up not doing it. He actually ended up proposing to her in a nice little restaurant, and it was actually really sweet and everything. And actually, was it last Christmas Eve or the year before? No, it was last Christmas Eve. Yeah. It was actually really sweet. It's cute. He like sent me a text message, and he was like, she said yes. I was like, oh, that's sweet. I do wish you guys would have waited longer, but they seem very happy together. So anyway, I'm rambling. Point is, don't put somebody on the spot like this. It's not good because, and I want to be clear on this. People love to talk about this from the perspective of like, oh, it's like so like horrible for the woman, and it is. Don't get me wrong, but that horse has been beaten to death. We understand that, or we should understand that. It's also not a good idea as the person who is doing the proposing or making this grand gesture because they could be saying something to you that isn't true, and now like you think, oh, they said yes, we're in love and all that, and then you find out later, no, they just said that to make you happy, and so now you're in an awkward position. So it's not good for anybody. I just want to make that perfectly clear. Oh.
His reasoning for loving her any clearer or more articulate.
Eu sei que ser louco, porque mal te conheço, mas às vezes as coisas são muito claras para mim. Não preciso de prova.
Still, however misguided, at least Jamie is open with Aurelia. There's an even more insurmountable lack of communication between the couples who can understand each other. Sam spends his time pining after Joanna and even learning the drums rather than just telling her how he feels.
Tell her they can love her.
No way.
And it goes without saying that Mark, Juliet, and Peter might have all been better off if Mark had just been honest about his affections sooner, rather than playing mind games with Juliet or letting his cue cards do the talking. This emotional repression isn't limited to the film's romances. Mark, after all, isn't exactly open with his friend Peter.
Okay, actually, that's right. I forgot about this relationship as well.
Cards do the talking. This emotional.
Real quick, these guys' relationship here. I think we're gonna get into it. Okay.
Repression isn't limited to the film's romances. Mark, after all, isn't exactly open with his friend Peter.
I know you're Peter's best friend.
Not at all. No. He's clearly harboring feelings of at least lust for his best friend's wife. Hopefully, possibly more than just lust, but at least definitely lust.
And I know you've never particularly warmed to me, but I just wanted to say I hope that can change.
Likewise, the friendship between aging pop star Billy Mack and his longtime manager Joe is marked by Billy's open disrespect, even contempt.
I'll be stuck in some dingy flat with my manager Joe, ugliest man in the world.
When Billy eventually does find himself able to confess what Joe means to him, he masks it behind more churlish aggression.
I've gone and spent most of my adult life with a chubby employee. It might be that the people I love is, in fact, you.
And
so, okay.
He immediately covers up his emotions with more macho posturing.
Let's get pissed and watch porn.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? I understand the issue of saying like, oh yeah, well he's covering up his emotions, he's still doing emotional repression. He's 100% exhibiting this common thing of common form of toxic masculinity. However, the fact that he is able to open up at all, and again, this is back in 2003, the fact that he is able to open up at all and to have that realization, because his whole thing is like, he got the number one song on the Billboard 100. I think it was Billboard 100. I think so. And he was at a party with like David Bowie and all these other incredible R.I.P. And all these other incredible artists and stuff of the day. And he left because he realized his best friend wasn't there. His manager, the person that he actually loves the most, wasn't there. So he's like, I want to spend it with you rather than at this glamorous party. So he ends up doing that. And, yes, it is put in like this, kind of weird way. But I don't necessarily think even that like the let's get pissed and watch porn is necessarily like a macho thing. Maybe it is, but I think it's kind of like their equivalent of like, let's chill, like I don't know, let's chill and watch a movie or something, right? On a side note, I don't think I'd ever want to watch porn with a friend. Like, I know people used to do that all the time. Like, that was their way of, but I don't, to me, that's a very, like, I don't know. Keep that stuff, like, private to yourself or, like, with your partner, but not with, like, a platonic friend. I don't get that, but whatever. Anyway. But I do think that this is a good example of him kind of, like, breaking down his walls. Even though it's not perfect, I think he's trying, and I think that's what's important here.
Let's get pissed and watch porn.
In Love Actually, even Daniel grieving his wife is frowned upon.
Get a grip. People hate sissies. No one's ever gonna shag you if you cry all the time.
Maybe.
I think that this moment here, so he just lost his wife in the movie. And I think that this moment could have been used to, because it's at the beginning of the movie. People are going to grow and change and stuff. And it could have been used as a moment to show her, or to kind of show an example of her opening up. And you could make the argument that it does, where she first has this whole thing of like, oh, let's repress our emotions kind of thing, right? Which, by the way, just to be clear, is not just a man thing. Yes, it is typically a thing of toxic masculinity to like press down your emotions, but women do it too. People of all sorts, repress their emotions for all sorts of different reasons. But yes, he's grieving his wife, and she's essentially saying, "Listen, if you want to get back out there and you want to find somebody again, you got to stop crying because no one's gonna want to fuck you if you're a whining pussy." Is essentially what she's saying, right? But this kind of plays into her character later, where she herself, once she finds out about the affair going on between her husband and his employee, that it kind of shows that she is like she goes upstairs and she cries, and she comes back downstairs and she's trying to hold it all together for the kids, and that's not healthy either. But like, is that a thing people actually do? Yes. And does it fit her character after this line? Yes. So I think it works. It's not good, but it does fit her character.
Daniel grieving his wife is frowned upon.
Get a grip. People hate sissies.
I will say, part of me wonders how much of the way that I feel about this, and maybe even the way that the take feels about this movie, is due to like our American sensibilities kind of clashing with British ones, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's a cultural difference here or what have you, but I don't know. I know a lot of British humor is very dry a lot of the time, so I don't know.
No one's ever gonna shag you if you cry all the time.
Maybe some of this can be chalked up to these characters being British. The English are not exactly known for being open with their emotions, after all.
Oh shit! All right, cool. That's nice.
But they all have a troubling aversion to vulnerability, even with the characters they supposedly want to share their lives with. Sarah can admit she wants marriage and babies with Carl, but she can't even be open with him about her own life, just as the two are.
Yeah, no, okay, so this is a really rough scene because throughout the whole movie, she's these two are trying to, well, she's trying to get with him more so. I want to find a picture of like both of them. Okay, I guess this will do. And her whole thing is she has a brother who is mentally ill in the hospital, and she goes to comfort him and to be with him and all that. But when they get back from the party and they're about to hook up and all these different things, they haven't really, as far as we know, shared much of a connection together. They're just like attracted to each other and they work together. Again, I don't really see anything wrong with coworkers working together necessarily, but I also understand people who are like very much against it. I know it's kind of a do these things at your own risk type of thing, you know what I mean? But anyway, she is, so they're about to hook up, and there's this whole moment where she gets a call, and I don't think it's her brother, but it's the people in the mental facility that are like watching over him. And literally as she's on top of him, like they're not actually like, in the middle of the act or anything, but as she's on top of him, she's like, "Oh no, I'm not busy." And like that's got to be such a gut punch, right? And her whole thing is, yeah, she's like, she struggles to really let him in on that part of her life, and she's not honest with the other people either. She's just kind of like, now I think the reason that they did this in the film was to show that her love for her brother means more to her than her physical attraction to this coworker, which makes sense. That like I get that, and that's perfectly fine. That is a good message. I think it could have, I don't know, like could have gone better about like explaining it, or explaining isn't the right word, but like showing it better. But in any case, yeah. So, and her brother is like physically, like he tries to hit her and stuff too. He's not in a good way, but I think that they showed off their relationship pretty well and how much she cares for him and is trying to be there for him with all that he's going through.
On the verge of acting on their attraction, they're interrupted by a call from her mentally ill brother, a situation that Sarah downplays to Carl, seemingly for fear of spoiling the fantasy.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, she downplays it to him, and she downplays it to the person who she took the call from. She's like, "Oh, I'm not busy with anything." And then they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And
it's not really fine. It is what it is. And Sort of there being no parents now and us being over here, it's my job to keep an eye on him. I mean, not my job, obviously, I'm glad to do it.
Her reluctance to tell him the truth suggests she doesn't really trust him, and Carl's reaction suggests he's not really interested in talking about it anyway.
There's nothing wrong with that either, though. If you're like on a date with somebody, or you're hooking up with somebody, or whatever the case, and that's what you're interested in, that's what you guys are there for, then I mean, it does make perfect sense to essentially say, okay, well, like, let's not worry about that, or whatever, whatever you're doing with anybody. It doesn't even have to be like a hookup or anything, whatever. But yeah, if you do want to like comfort the person in that moment and everything, be like, oh, what's going on, kind of thing. I know that for me personally, I would be very tempted and probably would just try to be like, what's going on? Do you want to talk about it? And if she wanted to, cool. If she didn't, I guess if she was like, I think it would be better. Yeah, I could see an argument to say that it would be better if he would have like offered first, and then she was like, no, like I don't. Let's just pick up where we left off. Essentially, I think that would have made sense. But yeah, I mean, I can understand the takes critique with that, for sure. But at the same time, I don't think that you're like a bad person per se if you do what these guys are doing here. I do think that, yeah, they're not opening up to each other about things, and that's a problem. But
meanwhile, Harry's dalliance with Mia can be chalked up to his inability.
But also, yeah, don't answer. Like, yeah, seriously.
To communicate directly, not only with her but with his wife.
That is true too. No, okay, that's true too. So I mentioned before how he should like shut it down with his employee, say I'm married, like all this shit, right? But at the same time, he should also tell his wife, listen, I got an employee. I haven't acted on it. I haven't done anything, but she's been trying to flirt with me, and of course I haven't done anything. I love you. I respect you. But I just want to let you know what's going on, and I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it. Maybe even ask her for advice, anything. But you definitely have to let her know, because hiding this just makes it worse, as we see in the film.
For heaven's sake, women, don't have any secrets.
Their marriage seems to have reached a rather cold impasse, and it's clear that they've grown distant.
My expectations are not that high after 13 years of Vista, which always enough stuff.
Yet rather than talk about their problems, they hide them behind a mask of passive-aggressive digs and deflections.
Mia's very pretty.
Is she?
You know she is, darling. Be careful there.
Even
like, she knows, right, that something is kind of up there. Why not talk about it with each other? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Communication really is key in all relationships.
After Karen discovers Harry's betrayal with Mia, she intentionally hides her pain, right up to the
Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier, yeah.
end. They can't seem to be direct with each other.
Would you say? Knowing life would always be a little bit worse.
And we're left to wonder what each of them is really feeling, and suspect that neither will ever really know as well.
Are you?
I'm fine.
Toxic.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, everybody goes on a plane later, and certain people come back, including him, and yeah, his whole thing is, oh, how are you doing? She's like, I'm fine. And their whole thing is what, they're just gonna like push it down, and I mean, maybe they'll try to work through it, maybe they'll get some kind of counseling, like, we don't know, but it's just, we don't know. It's not good. Again, romantic comedy, guys. It's insane.
Takeaway number 4. Love's about
Feel good romantic Christmas movie. Yeah, okay.
grand romantic gestures.
Okay, we'll go to the airport.
This is probably what kind of hits on what I was talking about before with romantic gestures, but let's get to it.
Instead of just talking to each other, most of the couples in the film communicate through the romantic comedy staple of the grand romantic gesture.
Right. The grand romantic gesture, by the way, does not work in real life. I've talked about this before, right? But the difference between somebody, like the card thing, right, that the guy did, between something like that being creepy or being romantic is if that attraction is reciprocated. Now, in the case of these movies, the attraction is always reciprocated. But in real life, don't do this fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like, just don't.
These showy public declarations are the logical culmination of a film that mistakes limerence for love, disregards communication and respect, and always puts the men in control. Thus, we have spectacles like Jamie flying to Portugal.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it puts the men in control, but other than that part, I do, or always puts the men in control, but other than that part, yeah, I do agree with the, yeah.
Gathering a crowd, then bringing them with him to Aurelia's job to propose.
Bonita Aurelia. Deal with it.
Again, like, there are some serious issues with fat people in this movie, by the way, too. There's a moment where the father here, that this guy shows up to win the heart and like propose to the girl that was working for him and all that stuff now that he's learned her language. And her father here, he's like, oh, you're here for my daughter, and that's one of his daughters. He's like, oh, no, not her. He's like, oh, it's never the fat one, or something like that. It's like, Jesus Christ. And then there's another one. Again, this movie came out in 2003. So there's a point where they're talking, and I don't remember if it's the daughter or somebody else, but somebody calls her, like, Queen Dunkin', like, Princess or Queen or something, Dunkin' Donut 2003. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like it's bad. It's really bad.
Then bringing them with him to Aurelia's job to propose.
Bonita Aurelia, eu vim aqui para te pedir para casar comigo.
Or David tracking down Natalie, knocking on random doors until he finds her, then sharing a first kiss that's literally
I didn't even think about the fact that they're all doing romantic gestures. But yeah, that's true. They're all doing grand romantic gestures, yeah.
on stage. The film suggests that regardless of the actual relationship you may have with someone, you can will love into being by simply declaring it loudly and ostentatiously enough.
You've seen the films, kiddo. It ain't over till it's over.
These moments certainly seem romantic, but they're missing the one thing that makes true love possible, and that the film is largely lacking: intimacy. Love Actually's romances take place in front of audiences, in crowded airports, or from behind the protective veil of cue cards. Love may be everywhere, like the film says, but it only truly develops between two people away from everyone and everything else.
Oh my god, yeah, when I first... Okay, this is what I was talking about. We're like watching a movie and then the doorbell rings and all that. Imagine if the dude answered the doorbell instead. Be like, what's up? What's going on? What's with the cards, man? He's like, oh, nothing. I think there's a bit about that on YouTube or something, like if the husband answered the door or something. But, yeah, no, that whole part at the end there of like... God, what was it? Oh, never mind, I lost my train of thought. We'll just keep going.
And earned in a way that no big romantic gesture could ever replace. It only truly develops between two people.
Oh, that's right. The beginning like message of the movie, it sounds so beautiful. They're talking about how love is everywhere and all these different things, and they're talking about not even just romantic love, but like friends and family, and it sounds like such a beautiful message. And I was like, I think I'm really gonna like this movie. And then I saw the whole thing.
Away from everyone and everything else, nurtured and earned in a way that no big romantic gesture could ever replace. Despite all these toxic takeaways, there are some true love stories in Love Actually. For all their friction, Billy Mack and Joe do share a genuine bond.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
I feel very proud.
Perhaps its most touching relationship is the one that develops between Daniel
100%. My God, their relationship is amazing.
and Sam as stepfather and stepson.
Such a great example of a father and son relationship. I love it.
And if you accept the 2017 charity special Red Nose Actually as canon, Jamie and Aurelia, David and Natalie, and Sam and Joanna are all still very much in love, and Mark has moved on to another fantasy object.
Well, that's kind of nice. At least he's not being a homewrecker anymore. But also, I haven't seen Red Nose Actually, so I can't say.
Screenwriter Emma Freud suggested on Twitter, even Harry and Karen have probably stayed together, if only by further quashing their feelings. Ultimately, Love Actually is a film that's all about the sentiments and sensations of love, rather than the truths. And of course, that doesn't detract from how it makes us feel inside, or how it makes us laugh.
There was more than one lobster present at the birth of Jesus.
Duh.
Like any other holiday treat, there's nothing wrong with indulging in it, so long as we recognize that Love Actually is only about love superficially.
If you look for it, I've got a sneaky feeling you'll find that love actually is all around.
Yeah, that was that. Like, I thought that was a really nice message originally, but the whole thing, like, yeah, it's... Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that is a classic Christmas movie that a lot of people love that... Yeah, I'm sorry, I just didn't like it. Just too much... It just romanticized way too many elements that I just cannot get past, especially the infidelity. But the infidelity, the bosses trying to get with their coworkers. Granted, the one of the instances was, of course, or sorry, bosses trying to get with their those that they've employed. Granted, one of those, of course, was the woman trying to seduce the boss, which isn't good. And again, yes, he shouldn't have entertained it. But all of the main characters in this film, except for the ones who were betrayed, and the ones who were what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh my god, what is the word I'm looking for here? The ones who were... Oh my god. Oh, like the father and son and the guy that went to get laid in America and all that stuff. Everybody else is like terrible characters. Even the wife of the wife that I want to say Natalie Portman, but that's not it. Keira Knightley played, because like that's just like all of that is horrific. Yeah, all of it. So anyway, I can see why people love the movie, and if you do enjoy that movie or love hard, more power to you. Not my kind of thing. I really didn't like these movies, especially the elements and the lessons that can be taken from Love Actually. So, but if you do enjoy it, hey, more power to you. If you're curious, by the way, my favorite Christmas story is A Christmas Carol, specifically the 2009 movie. I feel like it stays very true to the source material and is a very good adaptation. I'm talking about the Disney Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey as Scrooge and all that stuff. So anyway, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, so yeah, as always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something to do like. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Peace and love.